Um, because I have been an activist, an outspoken activist on gay and lesbian, bisexual and transgender issues, which has been a part of my rabbinate as well. And from the early days of the AIDS crises, when, for a while I was one of the only rabbis in Los Angeles in the late 80s, burying the masses of young Jewish men at the time who died of HIV/AIDS. I was 28 years old and burying myself in many ways each time I stood at the cemetery grave. There were a couple other rabbis in town, but we were still fighting with mortuaries as to whether they would even take Jews with HIV, and the chaplain at the time at Cedars-Sinai wouldn't visit people with AIDS, and adding to the misinformation about HIV/AIDS. I can remember going to Sherman Oaks Community Hospital, which was a major AIDS hospital at the time. The entire third floor of the hospital was basically full of AIDS patients. It was only AIDS patients. And in the early part of the late 80s, you still had to dress up in head to toe in full gowns and masks because they didn't know enough about transmission. I'd go inside and take off the gloves and the mask, and sometimes have to bring in the trays themselves to feed the guys because nurses and LVNs would just leave it outside because their own fear levels were so high, and we didn't know so much in those early years. So my activism not just grew out of many different things, but also in part the AIDS and HIV crisis, and also my own sense of that gay and lesbian people and gay and lesbian Jews deserved a place at the table, of the Jewish communal table. And so I've spent a lot of time doing activism on behalf of civil rights for gay and lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people through my years in the rabbinate.